How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and a very happy Halloween to you all that have celebrated over the past day or weekend. If you're a kiddo, I hope you had a fantastic time going out and trick-or-treating. If you're the parents of said kiddos, I hope you had a fantastic time and not a miserable one, because normally there's no in between, right? But for me, at least, spending my Halloween, which is right now at the time of recording this, I did it doing what I do best, and that's talking about the New York Metropolitans as they officially picked up from the Seattle Mariners via waiver claim right-hand reliever at the young age of 29, that being in Penn Murfee over this past day on Halloween day, as a matter of fact. So now let's get into the obvious, which is, Wardy, why are we talking about a random reliever the Mets just picked up? Does this mean anything? Is there substance to this? Yes, there is. We're about to get into it. What makes Penn Murfee stand out more than all the other waiver claims that the Mets have done over the past couple years that we haven't individually discussed on the channel? That as well will be highlighting as well. Great questions, I know, and I got the answers for them. But more than anything, who is Penn Murfee? That is exactly what we're going to get into. But first, let's get the elephant out of the room. Yes, if you know anything about Penn Murfee, then you know that his season abruptly came to an end this year for the Seattle Mariners around June, when he had to end his season to have season-ending UCL surgery, which means the earliest that he will return not only pitching for the Mets, but just Major League Baseball will be the tail end of the 2024 season, because he's going to have to spend the next calendar year still rehabbing and getting right to get back in his game shape. Now, if you're a pitcher and you haven't had any type of significant UCL surgery, I'm almost concerned for you at this point, because it's so rare. It doesn't matter if you're a starter or a reliever. It feels like it happens to everybody. Everyone's getting TJ some way, somehow, or some different type of variation or form of it, right? So that isn't really overly concerning to me, and this is very much a solid pickup, in my opinion, for the Mets, and here's exactly why. Because I know you're probably wondering, okay, the Mets just signed a guy, picked him up off a waiver claim, rather, but they're not going to really have him for most of 2024. Why does this matter now? This matters now because this is officially the first move David Stearns has made as president of baseball operations this offseason, even though the offseason has officially began until the World Series ends. But you get my point. This is like the first move of what's going to be a plethora of moves this offseason for David Stearns and his Ran Mets. Now, bringing in Penn Murfee is very interesting. As you see from the stat line down below, this guy, since arriving in Major League Baseball to start the 2022 season, in which he pitched around 70 innings of just under a 3 earned run ball with basically those 2 pitches, that nasty sweeper that you see in the highlights right now that has so much movement, making righties looking ridiculous down and away, or lefty hitters all way in on the hands down, and they cannot pull that ball. He's had so much success in the 2022 season with the Mariners, with expected ERA around 2.6, to then 2023 in 16 games, 14 innings, as you see here, a 1.29 ERA, expected ERA over 3. The walks per 9 were far better in his larger sample size in 2022 than they were in 2023. But again, small sample size. The guy hasn't even pitched 100 innings rather, at the MLB level. So yes, there's still a lot to give with someone like Penn Murfee, but what makes him stand out so much is not only the great success he's had at this young point in his career, to the point that as soon as he's come in, he's put fear in the eyes of opposing batters. When you look at his numbers through Baseball Savant, Fangraphs, etc., they're looking very promising, especially Baseball Savant. When you look at his 2022 numbers and what he qualified for percentile wise, he's in the 80 to 90 percentile and a lot of things. And that sweeper, that movement, is one of the better pitches in all of baseball. Like, that thing is absolutely disgusting. Adam Ottavino vibes 2.0. He might just be the heir apparent to Adam Ottavino when Adam's time in Queens is likely done after this upcoming season. So very well could be passing the torch from one sweeper, kind of having that sidearm action, to the next tier, that being in Penn Murfee. Now, Penn, while he hasn't pitched too much at the major league level, has had a great amount of success. And what makes him stand out isn't only that early success, and the Mets hoping to rekindle that again once he returns from his rehab and his injury over the next year, but it's his club control. This is what I really am enticed by. Not only the fact that this guy's a great talent on paper, what we've seen visually here, but the fact that he's not a free agent until the 2029 offseason, folks. The Mets are going to have a fully healthy Penn Murfee for 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. That's 4+ years of Penn Murfee, and hopefully you're getting him as best or close to. And of course, there's no guarantee that he's going to live out that contract with the Mets. He very well could be flipped or parted with or cut off from the roster prior to the Mets even having the guy pitch a game for them. That very much can happen. If so, no worries whatsoever, right? There's a reason why it's still a waiver claim at the end of the day, but there's also a reason why the Mets made this decision the Mariners parted with. So let's get into both those things. One, the Mariners parted with him here because they've done a great job in recent years churning out constant arms out of that bullpen. Making something out of nothing at times is what Seattle has done so great in recent years out of their bullpen. A fantastic example would, of course, be Paul Sewald, the reclamation project coming from the Mets to Seattle. Completely changed his arsenal and became one of the better relievers, closers in all the game right now, as he's trying to shut the door and win a World Series as we speak with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Shout out to you, Tommy Pham. If you know, you know. But now let's get into, okay, we've seen that success with the Mariners, but they're also a team that does like to penny pinch does like to have roster room, and if they're not going to have a guy that's productive for them and helping them in any way for basically the next year or so, you know, a little less than a year, they're going to have naturally more incentive to part with these guys. And that's where the Mets can come into play, and a David Stearns, who has a great background when developing pitching and seeking out pitching, especially in his scouting experience during his time with the Milwaukee Brewers, now bring that over now to the Mets as their president of baseball operations. And for the Mets, they get a guy that, yes, do not get me wrong, he is still a low-risk, high-reward type move at the end of the day, but this is a John Curtis 2.0. Now, for those that don't remember John Curtis, the Mets signed him a couple off seasons back under their previous regime. They've tried this mentality before, where you sign a guy that had a really solid couple of years at the major league level as a reliever, but knew he'd be out for a year with injury, something Tommy John relayed more likely than not. That was the case with Curtis, was out for a year, then returned for the 2023 season, looked solid in spring, but definitely got banged up a bit earlier in the year when he was being utilized, and spent the majority of the year in AAA for the Mets. So yes, nothing is going to lead to immediate success, or maybe you're not going to have the turnout you're hoping for when you're taking on these low risk, high reward moves. But if you look at the track record, the early track record that Penn Murfee has had in his career, you have to be enticed about the potential that he has with that 1-2 punch, with the sweeper that has just so much movement, so nasty, and a fastball that, don't get me wrong, is actually one of the flattest in baseball when it comes to velo. He only averages around high 80s, low 90s on the heater. So you're not looking for heat with the heater, you're looking for pitch placement and the setup to that sweeper, again, down and away those righties and down and into those lefties without a problem. There's a lot to like here about Penn Murfee, and I usually do not go out of my way to talk about individual waiver claims, especially a reliever that's not going to be pitching for the Mets for a bit. But this is exactly what David Stearns brings, his element, the big brain thinking. This will not be the last move the Mets do with this current regime on basically thinking forward, not only for 2024, but especially for 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, so on and so forth. There's reasons to think both short-term and long-term if you're the head of Mets front office. That is David Stearns as a diehard Mets fan, and this is pretty much his first official move, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, let me know in the comments down below. Sounds like a day that ends in Y if that's the case, right? But I really do like the potential that the Mets have here in Penn Murfee, and unlike the Dennis Santanas and even the Steven Ridings that the Mets picked up over the past year, in which Dennis Santana ate a decent amount of innings for the Mets this past season, you know, a guy that has life of velo but really struggles with the command and leaves a lot over the plate if he's not walking guys. However, Steven Ridings has all the potential in the world, but still rehabbing from his injury in the Yankees organization to the Mets this past year. He didn't have a large amount of success, especially at the AAA level in minors, which is why, as we speak, he's currently a free agent in baseball. But when you look at the recent discussions that we've had over the past year or two regarding previous waiver claims from relievers, in comparison to this now, you can see that the difference is certainly there with the potential, the upside. I mean, we're looking at a Penn Murfee averaging right around a 10K per 9. Walks per 9 was just over 2 in 2022, and that's 70 inning sample size. Then in 2023, in just, 16 games, 14 innings, was around a 6 walks per 9. So definitely needs to get worked on a bit, but small sample size. All I know is that there's a lot of potential here with someone like Penn Murfee to be even a high leverage guy down the road for this Mets pen, should he rehab and should he develop the way the Mets hope. And at the end of the day, the beauty about discussions like this is if the Mets don't do anything with them, it's no harm done. It's simply a waiver claim because they have room to make it happen, and they know that there's still upside with a guy here that many teams would love to have the luxury of picking up. Thankfully, the Mets lucked out here. Now I'm really curious to see what his rehab and his development is going to be like as we're following along throughout the 2024 calendar season, and see if he will make his debut at any point in the 2024 year, if he will pitch of any significance in 2024. That very well can be possible depending on how quick he rehabs and how effective he looks getting in game shape, and also making sure that he's appropriate for a Mets bullpen that hopefully by that time is very much either in a playoff spot or pushing for playoffs. And you need to make sure that you have a guy that's not only fresh but ready to go. At the end of the day, you can never have enough arms, especially if they have any upside of being high leverage for you. You cannot go wrong. How many times year after year, Mets fans, have we seen the Mets not have enough arms? Just when you think they have enough depth, they part away with some, and then they get steamrolled with injuries, right? Nothing ever goes in their favor in that regard. Hopefully this is a start of something great, and hopefully this is a start of a very exciting offseason, which I fully anticipate and expect it to be. So yes, Mets fans, we just discussed a reliever that's not going to be pitching for a bit, who very well might not do much with the Mets organization, but at the same time has potential to do quite a bit. Again, highly implore you all to do your due diligence on him aside from what you're seeing in this video. The highlights speak for themselves, the stats speak for themselves, Royals. But more than anything, just get to know a little bit more about Penn Murfee as the build-up hopefully gets to the point of him making his debut at some point in the 2024 season in a Mets uniform, as he'll be one of many guys competing to crack that Mets bullpen. And at that point in the year, the Mets will likely need help in the pen too, should he be ready to go as we're getting closer towards the end of the season, and then rosters expand and things of that nature. So Mets fans, whoever you're a fan of, I want to know your initial reactions down below. How do you feel about the Mets picking up Penn Murfee on a waiver claim from the Seattle Mariners? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you feel indifferent? Do you not care? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down below. And of course, stay tuned for consistent Mets content. Anything of substance, anything that is warranted of a discussion like this was, in my humble opinion, is what we'll be discussing going forward on the Mets. Plenty of live streams coming this offseason. We'll be bringing them back. You know the free agent frenzy streams will be coming back for usual breaking news live streams as soon as the Mets officially hire their next manager, whoever that's going to be, Council or someone else. We will be having that discussion. A lot of consistent content coming out, top 5 topics coming out, just off-season content. Buckle up, baby. Wardy's coming, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.